Hello, I'm Justin Perkins. This is Talk Junkie, and this is episode 98, Odds and Ends. Being episode 98, that means we are 2 episodes away from episode 100. I'm kind of looking forward to that. It's going to be cool. It's cool to have made it to 100 episodes. It's cool to be able to kind of take the chance to reflect on 100 episodes. I enjoyed doing the podcast so much, and it's been so fun that I wanted to do a 50, and you want to do a second anniversary, but the 100th episode will be a cool thing, and then that's something we can revisit on the 200th and all the way on, and as long as this thing can go. There's just a bunch of stuff like I'd like to kind of hit on in a little short podcast and get in there today, and plus I need some mail and I need it really quick, so today we're just going to be everywhere. First thing, the new poetry book, Creating the Perfect Slaves, by myself. Pre-orders some people have contacted about pre-order, but officially pre-orders start today. You can only pre-order through the Red Spotted Newt. That's READ, Red. The Red Spotted Newt in Hazard, Kentucky. So that's the only way you can pre-order. So if you're going to pre-order, that's the method in which you have to use. Contact them on Facebook, look them up, and pre-order through them. Oh, excuse me. But pre-order will go from now. The book releases July 1st, and it will only release to pre-orders and the Red Spotted Newt. So the only way you're getting this book by July 1st is Red Spotted Newt. That's it's a local business here. It's a lifelong almost friend of mine, and my wife's. She's a wonderful person. It's a great store. That's how you're going to get it. I had a couple people like, well, we'll wait until it's out. You don't have to. I'm sure she can ship. I know she ships. We spoke about her methods the other day. Contact her. It doesn't matter how far it is. She can get you the book. We live in a very connected world these days. And finding her's not hard on Facebook. But the book will be out July 1st. So any pre-orders in by June 18th will be guaranteed a book there by July 1st. If it's not pre-ordered by July 18th, I can't guarantee the book there by the 1st of July. But the book releases the 1st of July. From July 1st to August 1st, the only place you can get it is Red Spotted Newt. And I probably would just keep it that way. I don't, I'm sure she doesn't want to deal with international shipping, and I don't know how to contact the people I've previously sold to. My book did fairly well, my last poetry book, across the pond, as they say. So, I definitely want to access that market and let those people know it exists. And I have a method of doing that, but it involves putting the book on sale somewhere else. So that's the situation on the book. The first 45 copies of it for pre-order for a particular college program has been ordered. They're going to use it for a summer reading class. They've already picked it up, so that is. And I've done an interview for Hazard Herald the other day over the phone with a wonderful lady. So hopefully the news is getting out there, and we can do something with this and get this book going and make this attempt at it locally that I didn't make on the last book. Okay, that covers the book as far as that goes. Now, our new email is talkjunkie@gmail.com. I need mail there for the upcoming 100th episode. Anything that you think may tie into the 100th episode, anything you think that we may want to discuss, send me mail for that. the mail has become kind of a debate panel, and I get comments now and things back on each episode, and I really like that. So I encourage you to keep doing that. There's people like what I say, don't like what I say, and we're able to go further into the conversation than just the podcast. And the other day it led to a follow-up episode, and I'm not the most creative person in the world, so it's not always easy to come up with episode ideas. So I mean, that helped. It led us into another conversation, and then we continued that conversation, 3 others and myself on through email. Someone has mentioned down the road some type of chat group or something. So we actually may look into doing that. I may actually make some social media presence for the show other than just on author_J Perkins. Excuse me, I've yawned all morning. Occasionally on there I'll post, when a new episode pops up, and I'll post something about the book or something like that. So I may actually get some presents because it may help with the show, and that would be cool if I could do that. But I've had a lot of fun with that interaction. So for the upcoming 100th show, maybe send me in what is your favorite episode of the 100 that we've done. And if you want a screen name or some sort of alias used, please put that in the in the message. And if you want to call and say something negative about me, and you want to use a name, you want to email and say something negative about me, I'm probably going to enjoy it. I may even use it, but make sure you spell the name the same the 2 places you use it, because if you don't, then I know that that's not really your name, and you're trying to set up poor old Steve or Bobby or whoever it is, and you're just using an alias. So, but if you don't want to be called by your real name, and your real name say in the email title, just put in there, hey, refer to me as this, and I'll write that down. It's one of the few things I will write down so that But for that 100th episode, which only gives us more than likely that episode will be done by the end of this week, probably by Wednesday, because the way that's no guarantee, but by the way my schedule's been going, and I've been able to do them in the mornings before going to walk and stuff, or after going to walk, it's possible. So let's keep that in mind, and so get that quick. If you download this anytime before the 100th episode, get it to me. I may give it a couple days, and let's do that. Let's do that. This is Monday the 1st, I believe. So this coming Friday will be the 100th episode, if nothing bad happens. So episode 99 will be at some point in between here and there, and then that gives you time to get in mail by the 100th episode. And let's do that then, and we'll discuss that then. And now to give you an idea of kind of what my plans are with the 100th episode is to kind of just do a retrospective, a look back at what topics we've covered, what we've looked at, what we've talked about, what my favorite episodes were. Hopefully get some input back from you guys on what your favorite episodes were. Just kind of look at the method I started with, and maybe the goals and intentions I started with to where I ended up, what I was using when I started compared to what I'm using now, all those things, and maybe I don't know, just lessons learned, anything over those 100 episodes, and then kind of look at what I'd like to do going into the next 100 episodes. The big thing is, at this point, going into this next 100 episodes, I'd like to add 10 more listeners, 20 more listeners, something like that. It's nothing major. And the hardest part, though, really is getting the word out about the podcast, especially with the lack of social media. I'm amazed at some of the people that have found it, and where you live, and I don't. Tell me how you found the podcast, and that makes it interesting, because I'd like to know where we're at there, you know. So we'll cover that kind of stuff and just kind of look at it that way. There's always mail just kind of lingering and that's awesome. Like, I was having to beg for emails in the beginning, and I don't have to beg for emails now, and that's cool. Like, I mean, I could handle more. You can send me all you want, but it's cool to not have to beg for them. It makes it you know, easier to interact and easier access and easier material, because there's just always something there. There are things that sometimes I just don't answer, you know, not for any reason other than I forget, or, you know, things come up, or other mail replaces it before it. So, you know, if I've not replied to something, it doesn't mean I don't like you for some reason. Because if you send something that's just, you know, you're poking me, I may at least mention it on, you know, I won't give you the credit of using your name, because, you know, what's the point? If you don't like me, don't listen to me. It's pretty simple. I don't. Or if you don't like me, I mean, if you just vehemently hate me, then, I mean, listen to me and hate me and enjoy it and send me hate mail. That's cool too. I don't mind. I don't understand it, but I don't mind. I've thought about doing a live podcast. I've seen people do that. This is the issue with doing a live podcast. Kind of need to know where the largest bulk of people are. I have in my head a number of people that would make it a fun live podcast. And I think if I had somewhere between 30 and 50, and if I could find 50 people close enough that they would be, you know, I don't know. That's something maybe down the road, but I thought that was a cool idea. Any cool ideas, show ideas, episode ideas, send it to. And like I said, sometimes it just don't fit the current format, and it don't mean it won't ever be done. It just may mean that, you know, what I'm working on at the time, I may have to put it further down the line. So send in ideas, just because I can't use it immediately. And some of them I will be able to. Some of them I'll be able to hit straight back. I got a message or an email last night from the Freedom Movement. That was just the name that they asked me to use, and it was kind of, I think the way I took it is it's kind of in response to not only the podcast I did about the importance of breathing, but also what's happened since then. I don't know if you had ill intent. I said that jokingly earlier. I don't know. But what do I feel? That's the question. Was what do you feel about the woman in New York who was beaten by 5 men while her husband hid with a golf club in the store? I believe that one calls for a divorce. How do you feel about the woman beaten, I believe in a wheelchair, the man beaten almost to death in, I think it was Texas? How do you feel about that in comparison, or in regards, I guess, in the vein of what happened to Mr. Floyd? It's different. It's vastly different. This gentleman was killed by a cop while doing nothing, while restrained and not able to defend himself. He was killed by a cop. I believe that those cops should be tried to the full extent of the law. All of the cops, not just the one. And the police chief has said he feels the same way. And I look at that to be the next thing. I feel that those people responsible, especially look, you can say that this is sexist, and I won't say that you're wrong. I don't know. I was raised you don't hit women when you're a man. Now, if you're huge on equal rights to levels of absurdity, maybe you think a man should be able to hit a woman equally. You're a woman, you can handle a man just like you. I don't know. But I wasn't raised that way, and I don't believe that. I believe that those 5 men should be prosecuted to the extent of the law. I believe that the people who beat the man almost to death in Dallas should be prosecuted to the extent of the law. These people are trying to defend a business that they worked to create. I've not heard the Floyd family once say, hey, destroy businesses. Hey, attack innocent people. And I don't think 90% of protesters, well, that may be high. I don't know what the number is. I don't think most real protesters who are out there to really make a difference and really have, really care about Mr. Floyd, I don't think that they are there to riot and destroy. I think a lot of just thugs and punks who don't care to tarnish the name of Mr. Floyd and his family, and don't care to tarnish this movement. Thugs like Antifa, people who have a political agenda. They don't have a real agenda. They're not really worried about police violence. They're politically motivated. It's like when the Klan comes through and burns a cross. They don't come through and burn a cross because they have a real conviction about something anymore. Used to, it was a real ignorance, a real stupidity that caused these monsters to burn crosses. Now it's more of a political, speaking out, and I've always believed firmly that the Klan was a terrorist organization. I believe that Antifa is a terrorist organization, and I think a lot of people are starting to see that. There's a very good video floating around. There's this guy, and he's covered up, and he's beating up and busting up concrete, and they realize this is a white Antifa guy that they've sent in here. The protesters pick him up, take the hammer from him, drag him to the cops, and give him to the cops, and go back to protesting. Because they know what it is. It's a setup to destroy the progress and efforts they're making. So I believe those 2 wrongs don't make a right. It has nothing to do with color of skin or anything. I've never understood. See, to me, when we say, and look, I'm white. Maybe I can be wrong. Maybe I look at it completely wrong. I don't know. But to me, to sit and say Black Lives Matters instead of All Lives Matters, to me, is making a racial difference. It's making it. It don't need to be about race. We don't need race. And I've heard and seen all the the I don't see color doesn't help anything. Well, that's fine, but that's how I feel. And if it's easier for me to look at things as my children. If my children were black, I wouldn't want there to have to be a specific, because to me it demeans African Americans to say Black Lives Matter. But, again, I'm not an African American, so maybe I'm wrong. But I believe these people are just as guilty of a serious injustice, and I believe that they should be tried to the fullest extent of the law. I haven't seen the video fully with the woman. I've just seen commentary on it, and I've really not seen much of the video to if there's video of showing everything. The man being beaten, I did, and I believe that those people should be charged for attempted murder, because that's what they tried to do. Now, I seen a guy get pulled out of a tractor trailer. I don't know the circumstances with that, and I don't know how badly he was beaten, but there's no excuse for that. It's ridiculous. I don't, burning of government buildings and things of that nature, I have no comment on. I really don't. I don't have a comment on it. I don't know. I'm not there in the middle of that protest. I'm not there in the middle of that situation, so I can't say that what I would do in that situation. I don't know, but I'm not beating innocent people, and that's not happening everywhere. That's what's getting out. Lexington, Kentucky's had very peaceful protests. There were some cops kneeling in unity with some of the protesters. After the protesters asked them to kneel down with them, and they did. And then they hugged and embraced. So that's that's a good positive. And then I mentioned it on the other episode, the people from Louisville, the protesters from Louisville protecting the black cop, and the protesters handing over the Antifa member, and the lady giving the brick back to the white people who drove up and gave a brick to a group of black individuals and said, here, basically use this. And she's like, why would you give, you could get them killed. Why would you give them that? So there's a lot of good going on out there, but there's a ton of bad. And they do equal out. I can't say, I know what you want me to say. You want me to say that I feel like it's just as big of injustice for this guy, because that's the one you referenced the most, in particular, to be almost beaten to death by these protesters, is the same as a cop killing someone. And that's not, even though it's not the case all the time, and even though it may be unobtainable, the ideals that cops are the best of us, that they represent something better than what we are in every day, and that they uphold something that, even though it may not even be their personal beliefs, they uphold something righteous and legal and right. So no, to be killed by someone that's supposed to be there to protect you is an utmost tragedy. And also, you're talking about someone that did lose their life. So I can't say that those two things are equal, because there's a death there, and it's done by someone that's supposed to protect you. This was criminals almost killing someone. So, yes, and no, I don't know what their stories are individually. I say they're criminals because what they did was a criminal act. They basically attempted murder. I mean, that's what it was. You can look at it any way you want to look at it, but it was attempted murder. And there's no excuse for that, and it provides no benefit to anyone in that situation. So that's where I kind of weigh in on that. I think both should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, and I feel that does nothing but set this back. See, this is the opportunity to make a difference. This is the opportunity for great change and great impact, and it's being made on many fronts. And I feel that protests help that, and I feel that speaking out helps that, and I feel that forcing people to acknowledge the situation helps that progression. I don't think the looting helps that progression. I know the violence doesn't help that progression. So what you're doing is you're seeing people being set back instead of moving forward due to the actions of the ignorant and not the informed. Yeah, okay, sorry, I had a little glitch right there. But I think, I can't remember where I ended, but I think I got that question answered. Now, to look at Todd sends a lot of comments in, and he'll say, not for air, not for this one. He felt there was a question, and he okayed it. This is for air. And Todd asked, what do I see coming out of the backside of this? Well, it kind of goes back to the last question. I see some progress being made. We're in a connected world now. These cops, the cops lied and said the gentleman resisted, and he most definitely did not. You can watch that video from every angle. Now, I don't know why he was called. The cops were called. I understand he had a fake $20 bill. If he had been extremely violent, and it had extremely violent, and it had led to his death, it's not a popular view, but I understand cops have to protect themselves like anyone does, and I can understand that, especially if he's armed. Even if he isn't armed, if there's the chance that he's armed, or that he's making advances and there's an actual threat or danger there. I saw no threat or danger at any point in time. And I've talked to one person in law enforcement, and he's one person that will talk to me confidently, or in confidence, but he'll talk to me honestly, and he saw no, and he has seen situations where he feels cops have failed, and he saw situations where he feels cops have done really good, and it's been perceived as a failure. But I think coming out of this, there's going to be a recognition that, hey, this has to be addressed. This issue is far larger and further reaching than we realize. And there was a gentleman in the area I live in, killed by a police officer, and I don't believe it was called for at all. I believe it was a ridiculous situation. He was not African American, but I hope that, and I think at this point, it's to the point it has to be addressed by race, and it shouldn't, but it has to be addressed by race, and the numbers for African American victims has to go down. But my hope is that numbers for all victims, Latinos, Caucasians, all go down, because of course I understand population numbers are higher, but white victims of cop shootings and being killed by cops is higher, has been every year since 2017. So I think it's a problem, and we're looking at it as from the systemic racism side of things, but I think a lot of it's classism, and that just is a reflection of how disproportionately African Americans are in the lower class. But I think it's definitely a reflection of classism. I lost it there for just a second on my train of thought. But what Todd was asking is, what do I think comes out of this? And I think that there will be change in regards to how law enforcement handles these types of situations. I think there will be a definite change in that. There has to be a change in that, and I think this is proof of it. One thing I hope comes out of it is more access to information for the public. I noticed another police department, a smaller police department, had body camera footage, and it got released publicly, but it was redacted. That footage belongs to the public. We pay for it. It's ours, and regardless of what happens on it or who's on it, like you could blur out the faces if you want to blur out the faces of people who weren't charged or weren't involved in anything, but they blacked out whole part, and then they took out audio, and that's, to me, that's the same as tampering with evidence. I don't like that. That was done, and I hope that the freedom to that information will be a result of this. One thing that I'm going to tell you is going to happen, and it's going to be an issue, and I'm not 100% sure why. Almost every celebrity and every athlete, African American, and there will be white celebrities and athletes, will kneel for the national anthem for a long time to come. And somehow we feel like we can make them not do that. I feel that the NFL has the right to not show them on camera if they so choose. But I don't feel that President Trump or anybody else has the right to force them to stand. China can force people to stand for anthems or whatever they want to do, but in America we can't do that. We can't force people to stand, because if we do, again, that puts us in the same line of somebody like Chen. That's their right to kneel. There's things I don't like about Colin Kaepernick, but it has nothing to do with him kneeling. It's a lot of things on how he tried to profit and how companies tried to force someone down our throat. But as far as him kneeling, I actually support that completely. And I know, I've heard, military guys don't like it, and I respect that. It was a military guy that kind of got him into the kneeling, and it's the military that fights for the freedom to be able to kneel. I'm not going to kneel. I'm not going to kneel because that country is supposed to belong to us. This country is supposed to be ours, and it's supposed to be what we want it to be. And the majority of people want it to be a good thing. So I want to take ownership of that national anthem, and I'm going to take ownership of that flag, and I want to take ownership of this country. And I feel that African Americans should too, and say, this is ours. This is ours just as much as it is yours. In some cases, more than it is yours. There's a lot of African Americans whose lineage here in the United States goes back way further than Donald Trump's. And to me, I feel that they should own that and take the and it's a matter of taking things with pride, and it's a matter of taking things and making it undeniable, making we the people be undeniable. And so I think that will increase. And I think a lot of guys who would go out and march to defend the Second Amendment, a lot of people who would fight to defend freedom of speech, a lot of people who would defend, the people who are willing to defend freedom of speech and the people who are willing to kneel for the flag sometimes are different people, and I don't understand that. But one of the big ones for me is people who want to fight for gun rights, and people who want to make a very big deal about police states and things of that nature. They don't want to defend the right to protest, and they don't want to defend the right to kneel. And those things are very, very connected. Those things, it's all a matter of rights. And, I agree that an armed people are a more formidable force for a out-of-control government. But I also believe that if you don't have the right to protest and you don't have the right to kneel for a flag, what good does the gun do you? If you're willing to concede all of these rights in light of others, I really don't understand that. I don't understand it because it doesn't make sense. Now, I've talked to a couple people who feel that way, and their thing is, well, we're all for a right to protest, but there's no right to riot and destroy. I agree with that too, almost completely. Nothing will be gained by what was destroyed. Communities will be set back. The people who live in those towns will be set back. Antifa will load up and go somewhere else and destroy another neighborhood. And in my opinion, keep black neighborhoods poor and keep black neighborhoods down by their actions. And the protesters that were there for good intent, they will suffer those consequences. And they're starting to fight back, and that's a beautiful thing to see. But I don't believe that right is out of the vocabulary. If the cop was tried, or the cop, if none of this had happened, just peaceful protest, and then the cop wasn't tried for murder, and nothing was done, then I know two wrongs don't make a right, and I've said that. Then how do you not right? But how do you right before there's the opportunity? Because this is another thing. I don't know what all cases are what. And, the Garner case, the gentleman was strangled to death for selling cigarettes. Did he resist? I don't remember. I didn't watch the video. I don't know. But I won't mention names. But there's one case in particular that I've had 3 people mention to me as being a similar case. But this gentleman robbed a store, had a gun, and then ran up on a cop. And there's proof of all this. And he was shot in defense. That's not the same as what happened to Mr. Floyd. Mr. Floyd was a murder victim. So don't disrespect him and throw those people in the same category. And this is by people who think that that's a good thing. That they think that they are defending Mr. Floyd's name and making no, you're putting him in the same category as a criminal who did something wrong and provoked a situation. I didn't see Mr. Floyd provoke anything. So that's what I see coming out of the backside of this, Todd. I see, first of all, some social divide. I see some racial divide, and that's not warranted, but it'll come because I know white people who live in some of these areas, and they are afraid. We've got email from white people who they're afraid. They're afraid of where they're at because even though they believe and support Mr. Floyd, they're white, and that's a crime. Now, I know it's not as big a crime as it is to be an African American in front of some cops, but again, two wrongs don't make a right at all. And just from looking at the video, it looked to me that there were 2 other ethnicities in that group of police officers. I'm told one was African American, a very light-skinned African American. I was told another one was Asian. I don't know if that's true because I don't know these gentlemen. But it's not just Caucasian cops who are perpetrating this. A lot of times, African American cops are right there. I'll tell you a prime example of something. There's a video out of a woman basically just busting white cops in the face, and they keep just she smacks this cop, and an African American cop comes from behind and knocks her cold out. I believe he should have restrained her. I believe they should have cuffed her. She probably deserved to be knocked out. Don't hit somebody if you don't want to hit back. I understand it. But again, that's talking about normal people on the street. This is a cop supposed to be the best of us. If that cop had been white and that lady had been an African American woman, it would have been a different story. And that's not right. Should have been wrong either way. We got to take race out of things. I don't think that will be something that comes out of this. I don't think it will help race relations coming out of this. I don't think Antifa has any intention of helping race relations. I don't think the Ku Klux Klan has any intentions of helping race relations. I know, because we are shown every day, that the Republicans and Democrats have no desire to help race relations. So that's what I think will come out of this. This is supposed to have been short, and I'm almost out of time actually, and can't. I'm not going to be able to get in everything. I was going to get into the odds and ends show. There was a lot of good stuff that came in. Okay, remember the email and get me your stuff in before the 100th episode. It's talkjunkie@gmail.com. Marcus, I'm an African American gentleman from, I won't say where he's from, blah, blah, blah. Do you think that if this were a white male killed by the cops in the same fashion with the same footage and everything floating around, that it would be as big a situation? I do. This was blatant. Like, this is next level disrespectful. Like, what happened? I mean, There was no resisting at all. And they murdered him on camera, him begging for his life while he was staring at onlookers. I don't care what race, religion, creed, nationality this person had been. This had to be an outrage. That's why it's at the level it's at. That's why things are happening the way they're happening, because of just the pure disgusting nature of what happened. So, I do believe wholeheartedly, regardless of race, it would have been the same. But what do you think, Mark? You send me back to me, because you never really said what you thought. Tell me what you think, and let's continue that discussion. 100th episode's coming up. We're going to do a retrospective. We're going to look back on everything. Send me your message, your emails. Let me know. Let me know what you think. Just what you think in general. Let me know what your favorite episode is. It'll be a big deal. Also, I'm thinking about going social media with this thing. I've got a Instagram, and really a lot of the people I'm interacting with, emails I don't see on the Instagram, but it is author_J Perkins. But what platform? I always had much better luck with Facebook for whatever reason. I got more people. So what do you think? Do I go back into the depths of Facebook just for the podcast? Because I would like to grow this thing, because it's doing so much better than I ever thought it could do, and I would really like to make it bigger. But send in those emails. Pre-order the book if you want the book. If you don't want the book, don't pre-order it. I wouldn't pre-order something I don't want. I mean, if you're not into poetry, and don't seem like a whole lot of people are, don't get the book. It's probably not your thing. But it has this weird little flow from dystopian to hopeful. So if that's your type of thing, jump on it and give it a try. And just email me. I'm really enjoying the interaction email wise, and it's been very, very fun and very rewarding, and it makes these easy. We're almost at 45 minutes on this quote short odds and ends episode. We don't do these over 45 minutes. The program I got doesn't allow that, and I think it keeps it to where people can at least listen to it, because I'm sure they wish it was 20 minutes instead of 45. Don't suck, don't die, and don't be shitty to other people.